Hello, Dan. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to join me here for this interview. How are you doing?
Life is great. I'm excellent and really appreciate you having me on. Thank you. Pleasure's all mine.
Awesome. So, the reason I asked you for an interview is because two previous people I had interviewed, Michael and George, recommended I reach out to you because of successes you've been having in the real world. So, could you go into depth on what's been going on there?
Absolutely. Since the start of my time in the real world, just before December 5th, Michael and George have been a huge influence on me and on my success. They're two great captains inside the Amazon FBA campus. Since joining on December 5th, while I don't want to disclose exact figures, the financial successes have been great. In my previous 9 to 5, my annual income was $70,000 a year, working in corporate America. Uh, in the first month inside the real world, my monthly income was double that of my previous 9 to 5, and on track to do well over 6 figures this year in 2023. So things have been going absolutely great. It's just my first month as well.
Congratulations. So, in one
Thank you.
month, all of that is in one month, correct?
Correct. So my previous annual income on a monthly basis, I was able to make more than that within my first month of the real world.
Awesome. And to clarify, this is through Amazon FBA, correct?
Yes, it is.
And how did you get into Amazon FBA in this case, out of all the other campuses you could have chosen?
Well, when I joined the real world, I got access on November 23rd, just before Thanksgiving, a time when you're spending around family. So I had briefly jumped on the day before, taken a look, and was just overwhelmed a bit just with excitement about the entire platform itself and the multiple different campuses you could join, knowing that you can make money in any campus, but it was just a matter of which campus I was really going to dig into. Um, the Sunday following, I had opened up the Amazon FBA campus. Obviously, everyone knows what Amazon is, right? They are 52% of the e-commerce business in the United States. Millions of dollars a day are spent on Amazon. And but I never knew what Amazon FBA truly meant or that you could make money through Amazon. So I had joined that following Sunday of Thanksgiving, started watching the videos, getting to know the professors and the captains, but having a bit of frustration, not really understanding, okay, how are we going to make money at this, et cetera. This is a bit confusing. And it wasn't but a few days later, after just hammering YouTube videos, staying behind the keyboard, just hours of relentless work, really. What it was I made my first sale of $22, and the rest was history after that. And funny enough, a few days before, I was questioning myself. I was thinking, is this really a way to make money? And I had almost given up. But it just goes to show, what the no quit attitude does for you. Here we are a month later, and I've doubled my previous 9 to 5 income. So it's funny how the world works sometimes. Got to stay with it. Quitting's never going to get you anywhere.
Hmm. And is this starting with completely zero experience, or did you hear about Amazon FBA before joining?
That's correct. Zero experience inside the real world or outside. When I tell people what I do for a living and what I do for work, people are a little bit confused, and I say I didn't know what the word Amazon FBA meant at all. So it was a completely brand new word for me that I learned on November 27th. And then on December 5th, I had made my first sale. That's how quickly things can go if you're driven and you're relentless at your work and you're inside the real world and you're working hard and communicating and connecting with others. So, with no previous experience whatsoever, I've made some successes out of it, which I think extend to your personal work ethic as well, the rate at which you can succeed if you really
Hmm.
want to.
And to clarify for the listener, how many hours per day were you putting in when you started out?
A bit of a tough question to quantify. I would say, I wake up anywhere between on an early morning when there's lots to be done. I'm up between 5 and 5:30. Some mornings I'm up at between 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm working until I go to bed, which is usually about 1 to 2 in the morning. However, this doesn't mean I'm behind the computer that entire time. Potentially, I'm out meeting with suppliers. People are eating lunch in there. I'm training. I've got a rigorous training schedule. Still performing as an elite athlete while running Amazon FBA as well, and all my other activity inside of the real world. So I would say I'm working. I look at most things as work, 10 to 12 hours a day minimum, when I'm working.
I'm wondering where your mindset came from because usually you'd hear quite a lot of stories of people joining who before had no purpose in life. They were maybe spending their time playing video games or just doing other things and feeling like they're wasting their time. And then after they join, they realize they have a purpose to work towards, to spend their time on productively. But you seem like quite a disciplined person just speaking to you. So again, what was your mindset like before you joined?
Definitely have a bit of an interesting story when it comes to my life before the real world, and just everything that goes on inside there. So I, grew up an average guy, right? In high school, played sports. Everyone knew who I was, average type of guy. Graduated high school, went to university. At university, drank and partied all the time. Gained a little bit of weight. Tried to stay inside the weight room. Started lifting weights when I was 16. Really loved it. So just pumping the weights all the time. I realized that increasing your physicality definitely commands a level of respect from others just by your physical presence. Throughout my time at university, lifted weights on and off, but definitely was into the drinking. In December of 2019, graduated from university and took my first job in corporate America, where I moved away from the university city and outside of my hometown. And I didn't know anyone in the city I was living in. And that's where things really started to take that turn, where I was just drinking 5 to 7 nights a week, got up to 250 pounds, and I couldn't run around the block. Well, in November of 2020, was in my 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom apartment, working my 9 to 5, working a lot. So working a ton, working really hard for the company, but making someone else rich and just getting super out of shape. 250 pounds, like I said, couldn't run around the block. And the story goes, I get out of the shower and it's, this little bathroom. And when you're in the shower, the mirror gets steamed up. So I got this little mirror here and I wipe the mirror clean to get the steam off. And I look at myself and I just thought, there's no way I'm not dying like this. So that was November of 2020. And from there on, I just wanted to be the absolute best version of myself. So I found out of a thing called an Ironman triathlon, which is a swim, bike, and then a run. So I signed up for a half Ironman, which is a 1.2 mile swim, followed by a 56-mile bike, finished off with a 13.1 mile run, all done consecutively. And at the time, just like when I joined the Amazon campus, at the time I had no idea what an Ironman was or what it entailed. I knew that you had to swim and then you had to bike and then you had to run, but I just went on an absolute mission at the start of 2021 to figure out exactly what that was. So as I started training at the beginning of the year, 2 weeks later, that corporate job in my 9 to 5 fired me. They brought me into an office and they said, "Hey, Dan, we got to let you go. You haven't made enough progress on this, this, and that. And because of that, you're done." And in that moment, something almost overtook my mind and it said, accept your reality. Accept the fact that you're out of shape, that you're not doing your job, and that these people are firing you and you're going to change. So I stood there, looked at my boss, and I said, okay, signed my paperwork, cleared out my office. I drove home. On that drive home, I called my brother, who I now live with, and I said, this is going to be the greatest thing that has ever happened to me and to us. I'm going to change my life and I'm going to become an absolute maniac. And I don't know exactly how yet, but every single day I'm going to work my ass off towards it. And that's what I did. So for the next 6 months, at the start of 2021 to June of 2021, I trained 6+ hours a day and my swim, bike, and my run. I didn't even know how to swim, and I was going to have to swim 1.2 miles. So I taught myself how to swim. Started off by not being able to swim from one end of the pool to the other, almost thinking again, should I just quit? Because you can't even swim one lap and you've got to go swim 1.2 miles. So you have to swim 40+ laps, but in the open lake. So stayed at it every day tenaciously and relentlessly, and really fell in love with the sport and fell in love with suffering. Um, the direct answer to your question of where did I develop the discipline is from suffering. I think that every man needs to learn how to suffer, and it's your ability to suffer over time consistently that builds in that discipline. So suffering leads to growth, and discipline is just something that happens as an offset to that. So that was a 6 month journey that really opened up my eyes to the potential of what I could accomplish. And after that was complete, I thought, all right, that was the greatest 6 months of my entire life. What more is out there for me? So I continued down that path. Since then, I've completed multiple other half Ironmans, including a sub 5 hour half Ironman at 70.3 Michigan, as well as a full distance Ironman, which is a 2.4 mile swim, followed by a 112 mile bike and a full marathon, a 26.2 mile run. And I've also completed multiple ultra marathons of 50 miles and over 50 miles as well. So I got myself right physically beforehand before coming into the real world, because I believe that getting yourself right physically is an absolute key to success. And you're mentally you become so sharp through physical suffering. I would say that mentally I'm in complete control of my mind 24/7, no matter what I want to do. And that's really the key. So when you join something like the real world and your mindset is exactly where you need to be, you're very driven, you understand exactly where you need to go. The rest is just, where do you need to plug and play and really put yourself in the best position to succeed, which I've been able to maximize on.
Hmm. Yeah, because that mindset is usually taught within the real world, but it did seem like since you've only been in for a month and you're already, just from speaking with you, can tell how disciplined you are. I was interested in hearing that story of yours from before. So, man, that was amazing, Dan.
Thank you. I
Great
appreciate
story.
it.
Now, what was it that actually made you drawn to the real world, and how did you find out about it?
So I would say in 2022, I started to learn who Andrew Tate was and started to see some of his content on social media. And naturally, I knew. So I started down my physical journey at the beginning of 2021. And as the year 2022 came along and I was still racing and training at an elite level towards that summer, so maybe 6 months ago, I started to realize that there's more for me in life as far as my next pursuit, my next challenge. I've always known that since I was a young boy, right? People say, what are you going to be when you grow up? I'm going to be a rich businessman. Oh, yeah, you think maybe one day, of course, all the pessimism, but I always knew from innately from a young age, even when I was a young boy in elementary, middle school, your grade schools, I always knew that, I was going to be a rich businessman. I'm going to own big skyscrapers, or I'm going to be in the stock market on Wall Street, et cetera. But I always knew that that was something that I wanted to do. And now that I had gotten myself right physically, I thought that things were lining up appropriately. And it was just a point of, where can I go to learn from someone in the most efficient way possible, right? I don't know how to make money. I went to uni, I got a uni degree, and then took a 9 to 5 job. So you're making a few $1,000s a month working for someone else, having someone else tell you what to do 24/7, and you can't, do what you want. You're on a fixed income. So I thought, excuse me, how can I start to make income strictly off of my own back? I've always worked for someone else to make money. So when I started to hear about Hustlers University, which was then going to the real world, I thought, this is it. This is my opportunity. There was a voice in my head that said, the time to act is now. And then I had heard that the real world was launching. I believe the date was November 16th, pre-order. So immediately I pre-ordered. At the time, I was training for my last race, which was Ironman Florida at the beginning of November. And there was a natural movement inside my body, almost a voice saying, this phase of your life of training 6+ hours a day and racing multiple times a year is coming to a close. You've not eclipsed anywhere near your potential physically and mentally. I think there's always more work to be done. However, you've really went out there and you've smashed it. And now let's finally start the journey of your financial freedom. And for me, it's never been exactly about us making a certain dollar amount. It's just that freedom to be able to do what you want, right? Eat where you want, go where you want, drive what you want, live where you want. And the real world, to me, was a no-brainer on the place to go to be able to obtain that financial freedom. And without a doubt, get your start. So what the real world is really powerful for is it takes people that are completely flat broke, or someone like me who's making a 9 to 5 income, or someone in the middle, and it helps you start to make money on your own, which is really the big hump that most people have to get over. Because once you can start to make that own money on your own, scaling it is just a matter of how much you want it.
Mm-hmm. Very well put. For the people who are skeptical about joining because they think it's a scam, when you joined, what made you go full on, fully dedicate yourself to the real world? How did you know that it was the real deal and you had made the right decision?
With my background of success physically, when I went from being 250 pounds and couldn't run around the block to elite amateur athlete in great physical condition, I understood that not always are you going to see results right at the beginning. Anyone who's gone through a weight loss journey, anyone who's improved themselves mentally knows that it's not something that you just do overnight, right? So I think that getting started and then putting in the work and consistently putting in the work is where you're going to see success. So for people that are skeptical, and I see and I know people that perhaps have even joined and they're, well, I'm still not making any money. Well, how much are you really trying? You really have to ask yourself, how badly do you want to make money? That's the first question you need to ask yourself. How badly do you really want to succeed? And then you need to work from there. So being skeptical is one thing. Now joining, putting in as much time and effort as you have into the real world and into making money, working very hard, knowing you're working hard, not slacking off, not saying, well, I'll work an hour and I'll do an hour of Netflix. No, you're working both those hours and you're working relentlessly and you're at it and you're asking questions to verified experts in your field that are available at your fingertips, which is just a priceless tool that we have inside the real world. If you're doing all of those things, you can't be skeptical. There's no skepticism after that. Where you're skeptical is you didn't join. Who wouldn't be skeptical if they haven't joined, right? You haven't came inside and you haven't understood what's going on. And number two is you're inside the university, you're inside the real world, and you are not working your absolute hardest. Of course, there's something to be skeptical when you're not seeing results. You're not seeing results because you're not working your absolute hardest. In my experience, and there's a way that I kind of look at life, this could be with anything. There's a 3-step process to success in anything or gaining results, right? So success is on a 3-step scale. You have ownership. So the first step of success is taking ownership of your situation. For me, one day I finally looked at myself and said, Danny, you're 350 pounds. You're a complete loser. But the beautiful thing is, as a man, no matter where you are in life, you have an ability to be able to build yourself up to whatever you want. Anything you want to achieve financially, physically, certain women you want, places you want to go, vacations you want to take, you can have that as a man because you can work for it and you can earn it. Sometimes it might take a week, sometimes it might take a decade. So you have to take ownership, and that's the start. You have to say, I'm skeptical because I'm not working my absolute butt off. And then after you take ownership, that's usually where most people get caught up. It's very hard for someone to look at themselves and say, no, you're not doing your best. It's very difficult. But once you can do that, it's a powerful tool. After you take ownership, you need to take action. So taking action is a step that people get caught up on, right? So someone might have said, I've taken ownership. I've joined the real world. I'm paying my $49 a month. And they're on the real world for a total of 2 hours all week, right? So that's a problem. So once you start taking ownership and action behind that, you're active inside the real world. You're active when you're off the real world, you're actively working, researching, maybe you're watching YouTube, you're in the real world, asking questions on the videos you saw, getting out there, making sales. Then you're really starting to get in the right place. You start to see something back. You start to get your first win, right? Your first time in the success chat. You've got the action figured out. After you get that first sale and you're making your money, Or maybe it's not that first sale. Maybe you just have your first interview with a client, or you get your first email response, or someone finally picks up the phone when you call them on a sale. Now you've got your result. And this is the key of the three-step process. When you are between action and result, that is your golden ticket right there. That's your go zone. Now you just need to hammer away at that because you now know what actions lead to results, and you just need to destroy that area right there. More time, more work, more effort. That's your money slot. Action leading to result, then you've got your success. So the only way you're going to be skeptical is if you're not doing your absolute best and you're not just destroying that three-step process. That'll take out any skepticism.
Beautifully put. Now, how did the community impact you? Did it have any effect?
Absolutely. I was actually pretty brought back by the community inside the real world. I didn't fully understand. I guess I should say previously, I was never a Discord member, didn't really do much in online chats. Up until about 2 years ago, I wasn't much of a social media guy in general as well. So just in that aspect. So when joining the real world, there was a lot larger of a community than I understood. And while I won't go into detail exactly on the community and what's said inside, because I think that you need to join the real world and you need to understand and get inside there and get in the chats. But this community of over 200,000 plus members, if I've seen the latest stat correctly, is all inside the real world at the tip of your fingers. So everyone inside of your industry that you may be studying or working towards, or multiple industries that you may be studying and working in, whether it is a complete beginner like myself 1 month ago, or verified millionaires inside that field, they are inside that community and we're all building each other up, and it's all positivity. And it's really, really a great place where negativity and skepticism really isn't tolerated. And it's just a bunch of men and women just all joining together and all wanting to succeed. Everyone's on a one-track mind in there. So the community has really done a lot for me. When you have a question, you just fire it off and someone's inside there asking. It's a global community as well. So 24 hours a day, the real world is active, active in learning and active in success. And the community has been absolutely awesome. Something I didn't expect going in. So it was really great to experience.
Hmm. And what about the Wins channel? Did that have any effect?
Yes, seeing wins motivates me. I would say that motivation is a huge factor for me, and it might not be the exact word, but it's one of those cliches where people will say, "Oh, I don't believe in motivation," but yet when you're explaining it in a sentence, you use the word motivated. So I would say, looking inside the Wins channel, I would say it fires me up, right? I get excited when I see other people killing it. It's just, it hits the back of your mind, even in those times where you doubt yourself, or maybe you're having a bad week in sales, or you've never even made one. You look inside that Wins channel and you say, this is real. People are making money. People are succeeding, whether it's at the highest level or it's at the lowest level. There's people out there succeeding. So how could you possibly quit and say, oh, well, that doesn't work. That's that real world thing. That could never happen. It's really because there's a Wins channel and there's success channels inside of different campuses, and people are in there and they're posting their success, and there's nothing fake about it. It's as real as it gets, as real as a USDA $100 bill.
Right. And now, when you first started out with Amazon FBA, what was the biggest mistake or biggest challenge you first faced?
I would say the initial challenge that I faced was getting the ball rolling, in a sense that, how do we make our first sale? And for me, it just came down to a strategy of, I came in with a certain amount of money that I was willing to put up. And inside each campus in the real world, they will tell you, hey, this is how much money you need to get started inside this campus. Some campuses, you need to have a little bit of money to get started. And then, of course, like anything in life, if for some reason, this wasn't my case, but you came in with, thousands and thousands of dollars excess that you could just throw away, well, then that's going to make things a little bit easier for you. However, for me, it was just a case of, okay, how are we going to get started and really put up the money and then know where that money is going? And all of that is learned inside of the campus, but kind of spending that money in real time to be able to make some money is a bit of an uneasy feeling. But for me, it just comes down to firing the gun, right? So you have to shoot that gun at first, and you don't know where it's going to go, and you know you're going to miss. But as long as you fire that gun, you can adjust, you can step back, you can say, okay, hey, we didn't do this right, but we were in the general area. Okay, if we just do this next time, we're going to get closer to our target. We're going to get closer to making money, making a profit back to ourselves, or maybe making that first sale. Say you were on a sales call and things didn't go super well, but at least they went. At least you made that call, and now you're in the right direction. So it's about firing that gun in the right direction and then just kind of adjusting that scope, zeroing in on your target. But you gotta shoot the gun. You gotta get started.
Hmm. And now, in that 1 month period that you've been in the real world, what have been the three biggest lessons you've learned?
Get yourself around people who want to achieve what you're achieving, or put yourself around people who are already succeeding at things you want to succeed at. If I wanted to be a championship bodybuilder, I would go find the absolute best bodybuilder that I could put myself around, and I would spend as much time with that guy as I could. I would bother him 24/7. I would train with him. I would go to the gym with him. I would text him. I would call him. Inside the real world, when you're inside your specific campus or in the general campus, there are professors in there. There are verified multimillionaires in your field. There are verified successful students inside your field. So I would say put yourself in the presence of that success. Ask them questions. If you come up to a problem, ask them about the problem. If you win, tell them about the win. How can you do better? So that's without a doubt, the biggest takeaway and biggest lesson I've learned from the real world. And the most powerful, I think, and one that maybe not everyone takes advantage of is put yourself around the success that you want to be around. So if you want to be really, really good at Amazon FBA, well, then you need to be inside the campus and you need to be asking the other successful students, you need to be asking the captains, and you need to be asking the professor. Now, they don't have unlimited ability to get on a phone call with you. That's maybe not how it works. However, there are plenty of things that you can do to push the ball inside the right direction. So put yourself in the presence of success is one of my biggest takeaways thus far. And then to build off that, be inside the community and be an active member. So maybe it's not just, okay, I'm constantly trying to figure out how to make as much money as possible, but I'm an active member. I now have some answers to beginner questions that I had a month ago. And when I see that question pop up, I answer. Be an active member inside the community, build that camaraderie. I think we all have or some people in life have a problem where you might be speaking to an aunt or an uncle who are maybe in their 40s, 50s, late 30s, and it's, well, back when I was in high school, me and my buddies did this and we did that. Well, I don't ever want to get away from that. So when I'm inside the campus, I'm keeping that camaraderie. I'm chatting with people. I see people in there regularly. I say, hey, what's going on? Well, what were you doing today? What worked? What didn't? Or maybe it's completely off topic because we've all been on the computer working for 10 hours today. Maybe it's completely off topic. Oh, what do you got going on this weekend? I've got this event to go to, or I'm doing some training here. I'm going to go hike this, climb this. So it's building that camaraderie is one of my other biggest things that I've enjoyed and learned. And that has also led to the success is having that community and that unit feeling. So those are my two biggest takeaways, I would say, thus far.
Okay, great. And now that you're on this trajectory after having joined the real world, where do you see your life heading in 6 months to 1 year?
I see my life heading in the direction I always thought it would. It was just a matter of when it would head in that direction. I've always known that this is the level of success I've wanted to achieve. And I'm not trying to put too much thought into it because I know that there's so much more to be done, right? So making more than my previous 9 to 5 income comfortably and being on a trajectory for doing over 6 figures this year isn't for me the end goal. I don't know if the end goal is to make $1 billion one day, maybe in a decade or two, but the end goal it isn't where I'm headed right now. So for me, not trying to let it really get to my head too much, and I don't think it has because things are moving very, very fast. My business actually is scaling so quickly in real time that it's amazing to just learn what does it take to scale a business? How do we adjust? How do we grow as the business is growing? How do we meet the demand that the business is bringing in? So over the next 6 months, it's just going to be figuring that out. I'm part of I as well have a team that I'm a part of that also consists of my brother who's inside the real world, as well as another friend of mine who I consider a brother. He's inside the real world as well. We're all spread between a few different campuses. And in the next 6 months, one of the biggest benefits to my life now is being under the same roof as my brother, and then being able to bring those other two team members of mine that are also inside the real world under one roof. So moving inside of a house that's going to be able to facilitate all of us just being inside one place under one roof and just nonstop. So what are we doing? How are we succeeding? Okay, we're training. Okay, we got this event. That's kind of how we look at things over the next 6 months. And I'm currently in the Midwest here in the United States, and it's absolutely freezing. So in the Midwest, everything gets better in the summer. So as we start to scale and grow and be able to understand the business a little bit more, then I think we'll be able to, however you want to look at it, enjoy the fruits of your labor a little bit more as well. So start to do a little, maybe upgrade to a little bit nicer of a place that we're in and that we're under to be able to allow us to have a little bit more room to be able to succeed, as well as just try to continue to grow the business. And I'm not sure exactly what the future holds, but I know that I have a duty to get there. So a duty to myself, to my family, and to my brothers. So that's really the only thing that I'm concerned about. I don't need a flashy car just yet, or brand new clothes just yet. I think we'll kind of worry about that when we get outside that 6 month to 12 month window.
That's awesome. I'm sure the four of you will be unstoppable when you get together.
Yeah, that's what we hope.
And before we end off, is there any other advice you'd give to people just starting out, or would you say you've covered most of it already?
I would say I've covered most of it already, and I will slightly reiterate that for any young man out there who's in the real world or thinking about joining the real world, your age 14 to 19, you need to not only get yourself right and be happy and excited and driving towards that financial success, but you also need to look at yourself physically as well and mentally. You need to want to grow yourself in those categories, and that is going to increase your ability for financial success. The success I've had inside the first month of the real world, without a doubt, wouldn't be at the high level that it is if I didn't do what I've done physically, which is drove my mentality to an elite level. So I would say, hey, get inside that weight room, start lifting the weights. Listen, guys, you don't need to go run an ultra marathon or do an Ironman triathlon, but what you need to do is you need to push yourself physically, for at least an hour a day, especially while you're young and you've got the time, increase your physicality, bring that physical presence and that aura to a room, and success will follow you. It will multiply off of you. You will be a leader of men. And that's what I would probably say for additional advice. Get inside the real world and have a great time. You're going to make your $49 back inside the first month. It's been a really, really life-changing experience for me thus far.
Great. And now, for people who are interested in either finding out more about you or following what you're doing, where can they contact you?
So I am on Instagram at Danny.Barron underscore, DANNY Barron, BARRON underscore. So jump on there, shoot me a DM. It could be real world related, physically, mentally, whatever you want to know. I'm on there. I'm answering DMs. I'm giving advice, leader of men and taking from boys to men as well. We've all been there. We've all been young and wanting to grow. And I wish that when I was that age, I wish that I had someone that I could reach out to for that mentorship. So for me, I'm just wanting to pay it back. That I get the most out of life there. Fancy car and a big house doesn't do it for me. I believe that I have a duty and a purpose in life, and it's much higher than just making a lot of money. It's helping others succeed. And when I see others happy and I see others succeeding, that's really what does it for me, whether it's on the smallest little tiny level of helping someone go work out for 30 minutes, or if it's on the highest level of helping someone accomplish a life goal like completing a triathlon or running a marathon. I'm there, and that's where I get my fulfillment and my joy out of life. So please shoot me a message, anything on Instagram. Awesome. And inside the real world as well. Reach out. You'll see me inside there.
Great. Really love this interview. Thank you for your time, Dan. Really appreciate you coming on, and I wish you all the best. Goodbye.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.